The social interpretation of the ancient society, but in particular also the modern philosophy and philosophy of the Middle Ages of Leo Strauss is really interesting. In fact, Leo Strauss considered, on the one hand, the point of view of the natural law, on the other hand, how this point of view was developed from some philosophers during the history. This is really important, in fact, considering the first type of point of view, the natural law, according to Strauss, it's obviously that the natural law is in relation, for example, with the Christianity and the church, in particular, as a theory that wanted to develop a universal right or in relation with an universal law. In particular, it is interesting that, according to Strauss, there is there are some differences between a specific type of law that considered the right as a sort of the law as a sort of consequence of a right produced by the metaphysics point of view, and another type of right that it is instead produced from the political power. In this sense, it's interesting that according to Strauss, and also, for example, according to some others intellectuals, for example, Christopher Dawson, it is interesting that in the Middle Ages, the metaphysical way was debated in relation with the physics way, in particular according to the natural theology or rational theology better. In fact, according to rational theology, there are some causes and effects, and these causes and these effects are in relation with God. In particular, according to this point of view, there is, in fact, we know the theories of Plato, but also probably better the theories of Aristotle that considered on the one hand the physical point of view, therefore the limitation of the world. We know that according to Plato we are a copy of ideas, and what we produce is copy of a copy of ideas. According to Aristotle, we are in a physical way. We are in the physical world, and there is the first type of a cause that it is God. In this sense, God is the pure act, that act that creates the movement for the rest. This is important because, according to Aristotle, therefore, this difference between physics and metaphysics concern, therefore, differences between some differences between potential and act, in particular because what is in relation with the potential, his type of potentialism is a sort of object or subject that has some skills, some attitudes, but that he have to develop these attitudes and these skills. Gods is the first way that creates the movement from the metaphysical way to the physics way, and we can understand the things of the physical way, considered our type of intelligent, our type of attitudes in relation with these causes and effects that in a first type of point of view are not in relationship in this type of point of view with God in the argument of considering the argument of the cause and effect that produce some consequences. For example, if I put something in a water, I put something in a water, therefore this type of thing is in a water. But at the same time, there is a theology, a rational theology, that, according, for example, to Aristotle, is produced by God in relation with an act of love in this sense. These, according also to the theory of the natural theology, or also the natural law, was reinterpreted. It was reinterpreted by the Christian point of view. In particular, an important example, he was St. Thomas Aquinas, that created a relationship between the Aristotelian philosophy with the physics point of view and metaphysics point of view in relation with Christianity. The Christian and the physics, the Christian and the physics and the metaphysics Christian point of view in relation with Aristotle. On the other hand, we know that also, in fact, with the end of the Roman Empire, there were some philosophers, some intellectuals that were important in the study of the Platonism, for example, the Neoplatonists' point of view. Uh, for example, Plotino, or also type another types also of Neoplatonist philosophers. For example, Giorgio Platone, that lived in the Eastern Roman Empire, in the end of the Eastern Roman Empire. Therefore, we know that this type of philosophers, on the one hand, in the Western part, on the other hand, on the Eastern part, during the period, the time of the ancient period and the Middle Ages and the end of the Middle Ages, lived in Europe and in Eastern Roman Empire. That finished in 453. This is interesting because if we return to the argument, to the main argument of Leo Strauss, it is with the modern age, therefore with the finish of, with the end of the Middle Ages, that arrived a new type of point of view that, with in particular Hobbes, but also Rousseau, John Locke, he was an exception, created specifically a first type, or better, a first modern type of philosophical materialism point of view. In fact, this type of materialism, as a matter of fact, become really important also during the ancient times. For example, during the Epicureanism in the ancient Greece, in the 4th century BC. But at the same time, we know that this type of materialism was reinterpreted also during the modern age. Therefore, in the Middle Ages, this is interesting. In the Middle Ages, Plato and Aristotle were reinterpreted, but at the same time, in the modern age, the Epicureanism was reinterpreted. It is really interesting because, for example, Hobbes theorized the battles between men. His political theory was founded on the forces between people, and this theory of a force that explained that there is a battle between men, there is a war, a natural law, a natural war, and the natural law is founded on this natural war. Therefore, there is no objective law, but is only the law of the stronger. In this sense, the stronger is that man who who uses better the force, or in this sense, who has that capacity to impose his force on the others, in this sense, to impose his monopoly on the others. This is the sovereignty. This is the king. This is, according to Hobbes, the necessity to create then the contractualism. In this sense, according therefore to the reading of Leo Strauss, we have to analyze Thomas Hobbes, considering that he explains the importance of the contractualism as a consequence of the materialism, of his materialism. Therefore, if there is no law, if there is no right, if men fight against the other men, therefore is necessary only the contractualism to limit these impositions between men, to limit this right of the stronger, and to create a sort of rule of law to limit the battles, to limit the war. This is another type of point of view that Hobbes conceived. In fact, according to Hobbes, it's important to explain that, according his point of view, as Leo Strauss explained, man can deceive the other in the natural way, in the natural law, in the natural state. But with the civil state, with the contractualism, this cannot be because, I could deceive the other, but at the same time, there is only a king who has the right and who has the monopoly of the right. Therefore, if I deceive the other, but my behavior is discovered, therefore the other could impose his type of law on myself. In fact, he explains, in this sense, my behavior to the sovereign, to the king, and the king could take my life with his monopoly, with his power. This is interesting because there is the first type of law, but founded on this materialism. Metaphysical way is not so important. Is in Hobbes, according to Hobbes, it's not a science. There is no objective law, and in the end of a fact, according to Hobbes, if there is no objective law, in the end, the king has the monopoly, but the king has also the monopoly, not only the economical monopoly, but also the moral monopoly. Therefore, he can decide what is true and what is false, what is just, what is unjust. This is another point of view that is really important because in the modern age, in the Western philosophical point of view, arrived that philosophical thought that explained that in the end there is no objective rule of law, but only that rule that is the monopoly of the sovereign, of the king, and in the end, according to Hobbes, and this is the first theorized in the philosophical thought of the national state is founded on the contractualism that is founded on the battles, on the war, on the monopoly of the stronger. According to Leo Strauss, the first type of critic, sorry, arrived from John Locke against Hobbes, but Locke, in this sense, repeated what that type of topics that in the Middle Ages were explained. For example, the differences between natural state and civil state. In this sense, we can see the debate between, for example, popes and some intellectuals of the church. This is really interesting. But as a matter of fact, the real deconstruction of the metaphysics not only arrived from Hobbes, but also from Rousseau. In fact, if John Locke, it was a sort of exception of the modern age because he repeated that words, that thoughts that was developed in the Middle Ages, the objective law, etc. Rousseau, according to Leo Strauss, created or theorized a new type of deconstruction. Therefore, according to Rousseau, the society couldn't exist, or better, shouldn't exist, because, as a matter of fact, according to Rousseau, men could stay alone. But in real life, we see that in the end, men arrive to create a society with other people. Therefore, I have to see another one, and then if I have to see another one, there is and born, for example, the law. If I can see another one, I can see that it is the beginning of the law, because the law is a social science that derived from the situation where there are more people, most people in a land or in a specific type of situation. There is the story, for example, of Robinson Crusoe and Friday. This is another point of view that is important, because then Rousseau arrived to criticize the society to instead theorize that men could live, or better, should live alone. In this sense, there is a first type of theories of communism. In fact, according to Rousseau, men, in relation with the others, produce the competitions, and these competitions, according to Rousseau, is bad. Therefore, men should live alone. According to Leo Strauss, this type of theories of Rousseau is a type of theorization that sustained the social atomism. Better, the social atomism is that political philosophy that explain that men should be stay alone. But we know that if we are with the others, we can create competences, cooperation, and create better societies, etc. This is interesting because, as a matter of fact, this type of theorize that wants men without the society alone in an island was also taught, for example, by Cartesio, but in another type of way in relation with metaphysics. In fact, Cartesio didn't explain that man is alone in an island, but he directly, but he explained this indirectly, in particular in that situation where Cartesio, René Descartes studied the man in his metaphysical meditations, where Cartesio wanted to explain who is the man, but who is the man in relation with rationality. Therefore, a man in relation with rationality. Therefore, a man alone in relation with rationality. Where is the brain? What is the brain? How man can explain, how man can think something, etc. This is really important because we know, according to Leo Strauss, that Cartesio, better, Rousseau, it wasn't the first type of philosopher that conceived a first type of social atomism. Yeah, Leo Strauss didn't say this, but criticized Rousseau as anatomism philosophers. On the other hand, there is another topic that, as a matter of fact, can create a relationship between Cartesio and Rousseau, because in fact Cartesio taught the individuals totally alone. In fact, the criticize of Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, according to their point of view against Cartesio, is that man is not alone. But Hobbes wanted the man as a sort of beast against the others for the power, and according to John Locke, there is a sort of revival in his type, in his thought of a Middle Ages point of view, or philosophical point of view. Therefore, according to Locke, there is the God that produce the law, produce the natural right, and then the positive law in relation with the natural right. But only the natural right is the cause of the positive law, that is a consequence of the cause. Therefore, the positive law is a consequence of the social science, but the objective law is the natural right. Therefore, according to Locke, the true law, or better, the true right, is pre-social. It's come before the society. Another point of view that could explain the inactuality of liberalism. In fact, in this period, there was an important debate if the right it was born before the society or the right arrived with the society. Bye.